Thanks for joining me. I've had a load of emails asking what's the difference between my three custom programs. The Evo, which is the latest program, the Sona and the Ultimate. So what's the difference between these three programs? Well, let's start with the Evo program. That's a very simple program to install into your xp.Deus, and really the two big changes in the Evo program are the tone, which is an 881, it's a high tone, and the reactivity. The reactivity is at 4. So really that's the only differences between the factory GoldMax Power program and the Evo program. Really simple, nice and easy to install for beginners, and it works perfectly. Now let's go on to the Evo's bigger brother, the Sonar program. Very much the same, but there's a few interesting little tweaks behind the scenes. Let's get into the Deus menu. Okay, we're in the Sonar program. Let's go straight into the discrimination. Now the discrimination here uses a -6.4, whereas the Evo program uses the factory default of +6.1 to reject the iron. Now -6.4 isn't going to give us any iron rejection. Every target out there is going to give a single good high tone. So we need to tell the machine where the split is, when to turn the iron sound into the good sound. And this is where we use tone breaks. So if we go into the menu, discrimination, expert, 3 tones, tone break. Now 202, 202, 881. Now they're your 3 numbers. Now the reason we use a 3-tone rather than a 2-tone is we need a throwaway tone. The top bar, which says 202, is your discrimination channel. So if we make any break adjustments to that, it will act as a discrimination, but we don't want that. So we've got to allocate the one below as our tone break channel, 202. That's why we've named it a low tone. Scrolling down, we've got our tone break on the Sonar program at 9. Now this isn't 100% iron rejection, some will break through, but it makes the machine quite dynamic. So the question here is, why are we using a higher tone break compared to the factory standard discrimination? 6.1 on the factory discrimination, 9 on the tone break. Well, here's my theory on tone break versus discrimination. As we've just seen, factory default's about 6.1 on the discrimination, where the tone break, Sonar program is 9, Ultimate program is 10, is very much higher. Why don't I use the same tone break as discrimination? Well, quite simply is because the machine works differently. If you use a 6 tone break, you're going to hit loads of iron, the machine's going to go nuts. So we need to raise up that tone break to deal with the iron. Even at 9, the machine's a little bit snappy. So here's my theory. I think the tone break does something to the silencer. I think we're running a silencer at something like -3 or -4 using the tone breaks rather than discrimination. Don't forget, we've cut discrimination out of the equation completely. So maybe that's why we've got to use a higher tone break. I don't really know about this, but once again, I could be talking complete bollocks, who knows? But all I can say is the machine reacts differently using tone break compared to discrimination. Reactivity. Now reactivity 4, as I've said in previous videos, I'm a bit of a newcomer to reactivity 4, but I've got a little theory on that. Reactivity, why do I use reactivity 4? Well, I've got a little bit of a theory on this one. I might be right, I might be wrong, I really don't know. That's your call to believe me or not, but I strongly believe that every time the machine hits a bit of stubble with the coil, it gives like a false signal within the circuitry. Okay, the discrimination or whatever may have nulled it out, but the machine is still nulling out. Now, by using the faster reactivity, I think the machine sets itself a lot quicker. Like I say, I might be talking rubbish, but that's just my idea about it, and that's why I started using a faster reactivity in amongst stubble. And do you know what? I think it works. I really do. So buy it or don't buy it, that's the reason I use reactivity 4. Not only that, but Sometimes when you're out in the field, it's not a case of depth, it's a case of putting finds in your pouch, if you know what I'm saying. And the reactivity 4 does seem to find a large amount of targets. Audio response 4, well, that can be a little bit high for some people because you've got all that ground feedback coming in. So if you drop that down to 3, that calms things down a little bit. But once again, just like frequency, that's your choice. And that's your Sonar program. There's just one last thing I'd like to point out about the Sonar program. My previous video on how to install it talked about using the Deep program as a platform, because the Deep program uses slightly different filters. So it can be a bit spitty, it can be a bit choppy. If it is, just use Deus.metal as your platform. And also the Deep program defaults at 88 ground balance rather than the other programs which are 90. And that's all it is. So that is basically the Sonar program and why I like to use it. And finally, the Ultimate program. Now there's not a lot of difference between the Ultimate and the Sonar program. One difference is your reactivity. It runs at 3 rather than 4 on the Sonar. Discrimination and everything else is exactly the same. Expert 3 tones, there we go. And you'll notice there you've got 202, 202 and 710. Although you'll notice there that the tone break is at 10 rather than 9. And of course the Ultimate program is built up on the Deus.metal platform. So the ground balance defaults at 90 and it's using the later filters. Another point I like to make is the XY screen. I really like using the XY screen out in the field, especially when there's a lot of coke about, because it gives me a nice top bottom reading, and if there's a deep target or a suspicious target, it very often gives no reading at all. So that encourages you to use your ears on the signals, and as we know, using your ears tends to find more targets. Right then, I guess you want to hear what these 3 programs sound like over a target. Haven't got time to really do any serious detecting today, but let's just go out there, find a target, switch between the 3 programs. So what's the Sonar program like in amongst iron? Allow me to demonstrate. That's your iron tone, clearly. That's nailed it. Look, there's a little one there. 26, 20, come around the coke range. Here we go, Evo program. Can you hear how the Evo program is shut a lot of that iron off, that feedback? Don't forget, you don't get the feedback with the Evo program, it's just iron and non-ferrous. Ultimate program, the lower audio tone. Back to the Sonar. Hear how that's a shorter sound because of the faster reactivity, but it's certainly getting the stuff out from amongst the iron. Right amongst the iron. Now let's go on to the Evo program. Should be a lot quieter. Yeah, a lot less ground feedback. But these long ghosty signals are pretty much 100% iron. Sonar, here on wah. Just listening for a textbook signal. There it is, look, just look at all the iron. And there's one little tiny target nest in there. Evo. You can hear the Evo and the Sonar have got exactly the same tone pitch, but the Ultimate is slightly lower. And it's picking up all the iron, look. Look at that XY screen, no chance. such a great form of information, the XY screen. And I can see it there, it's iron on the surface. That is your overload sound. That Morse code sound, that's an overload sound. Oh, can you hear? Am I missing targets, guys? No, look at it. Look, that's flat-lined. Let's go on to the Evo program. Clipped. Oh, look. Oh, textbook. Look at that line. Evo. Even cleaner because we've cut out all that nonsense. Should we dig that one out, guys? I think we should, shouldn't we? Right next to the rock. Lost it. It's a piece of junk, guys, but what a clean signal in amongst all that junk. So why do I like all this ground feedback, this information using the Sonar and the Ultimate program? Well, for me it's kind of like a threshold. I've always been brought up on machines which have got a background threshold, and I kind of like it, you know. Oh, there's another one. And that's kind of why I like to hear the background hum. It keeps me on my toes, it keeps me thinking, whereas if you're walking up and down a field, especially a quiet field, and you've got nothing going on in your headphones, you tend to drift. This kind of keeps you on your toes. Lot of junk round here. That was easy. Don't know what that is. Always wear gloves, guys. Look after your safety first. Could it be a little Roman? Don't know, I'll have to give it a clean up. Well then guys, I hope that's given you a little bit of an insight into my free custom programs and why I use them. Thumbs up if you like this video, if it's been of some help. Thumbs down twice if you've ever shaved a dolphin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next Metal Detector Skill School video.